Welcome to the studio corner, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here. So your full name is Joshua Longfellow Wright.
Yes, sir. That it is.
I didn't know that until I asked you for the post I made about it, and I was like, holy shit, what a name.
Yeah, it's it's a name for sure. It's my Longfellow's my mom's maiden name.
Really?
Yeah. So.
I just thought of Longfellow Deeds from Mr. Deeds, the movie. Have you seen that? Mr. Deeds with Adam Sandler?
Yeah, a long time ago actually.
It's the only time I've ever heard the name Longfellow other than you.
Okay. Well, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, famous American poet.
Well, I'm not up to par with that, I guess.
Okay.
But I'm looking him up now.
Cool.
Longfellow. It's a good name.
Yeah.
So I listened to your albums, or the albums that you produced, or
Yeah, under the record label I had for quite some time.
Domain Records. So I listened to all four, the four that you gave me, the four that I got from your shop, and I dug pretty much all of it. But I fell in love with this one. The band is Fermata.
Fermata, yeah.
Fermata. What does that mean?
Well, Fermata is. I'm probably going to be way off here, but as far as I know, it's part of a music. It's part of music. It's like a note or like the way. I'm not sure.
Damn, maybe I should know this then.
Yeah, that's what. But I remember it was part of. It was part of music somehow. But
Well,
I don't remember.
Whatever it means or whatever it is, I feel like I should know it if it's part of music. The album's called Vessel. I loved it. I put it on and like right away it reminded me of like, I want to say Perfect Circle, more Tool. It's got like that heavy vibe, but that just great. Everything about it. The sound was awesome. Very Tool, very Maynard.
Yeah, it was a really fun project to be a part of. It was. We had it produced by Mark Rank, and it's one of my favorite for sure. I mean, I love them all, but there's definitely ones that really are complete.
Yeah, no, the song Pseudo on there, I think I remember the name correctly, that one was my favorite. It's funny, I sat down and listened to all four records actually last night. And I put that one on first, that album on first, and just right away I was like, holy shit, how have I not known about this? Is this the only album that they made?
It is, unfortunately. We did a music video for them. It was directed by Shane Drake, who is a MTV award winner for he Panic at the Disco and other videos that he's won awards for, country music awards actually as well. But yeah, he's done quite well. He's a really good guy too. But yeah, so we had videos for them and some other bands, and they went on tour. Just sometimes things don't work out.
Yeah.
So here we are.
I'm a little upset. I love them. I'd love to hear more of them.
I mean, I listened to it. I still listen to it because it's great music.
It is. It's like, because a lot of time, I mean, one thing right off the bat, anybody that shares music or literature with me, that's like that's the ultimate gift for me. Like, that's a bond. You share the type of music that you like with me. You share the type of literature. Like, that's very a very deep gift in my opinion. So I love getting that from people. And it's one thing to like receive, actual CDs. I mean, that's just nice to in general, but just to receive music in general from someone, I feel like is kind of this preconceived idea that, they're giving me music, I have to listen to it objectively because they like it and they gave it to me. And I try to take myself out of that and try to, think more of what's my opinion of it. They're sharing this music with me. And I sometimes struggle when people share the music with me, especially if they had a hand in it, because like I kind of take a different mindset, different approach to it, which may not be for the best. But the moment they started playing, the moment I put this record on, I was like a total fan. It had nothing to do with like Josh gave me a album that came out of his record label. It was, holy crap, who are these guys? I love this. Yeah. And I don't get to experience that a lot. So first, thank you for that.
my
and
pleasure.
And yeah, it was really enjoyable. I actually after I finished, I put them on the big speakers and just kind of hung out and did my stuff in here listening to them.
Yeah, I love the song Vessel.
Yeah.
The last song on it. that one's pretty rad. It speaks a lot of volume.
Yeah, the great lyrics too. I mean, just
Yeah.
all parts hit right on the head.
Yeah.
It's very upsetting to know that this is the only album out there like that.
Yeah.
So Domain Records, is that the label that you released? All that?
Yes.
So talk to me about that. I mean, first off, how did you even get started in the? I mean, how did you even lead into wanting a record label and starting a record label?
The love of music, wanting to be a part of it, surrounded by it, immersed in it, but also understanding who I am, and having dabbled in a band when I was in high school, and kind of saying that maybe I'm not the guy that is going to be on stage.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. So understanding kind of where I could fit, I found my strengths, or what I consider to be my strengths, and went towards a path of actually wanting to work for myself, not wanting to do the corporate route. I saw both my parents kind of get screwed over every time they worked for a corporation. So I just kind of figured, if I'm going to succeed, it's going to be because of me. If I'm going to fail, it's going to be because of me. So
Wow.
And fortunately, I've been able to do that thus far.
Work for yourself and be successful in the music industry. That's a pretty bold move. That's courage.
Well, I was 19 at the time.
So it's just flowing through you. You believed everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I moved out. I moved out of state briefly right out of high school. I needed to get out of the nest, the bubble, if you will.
Yeah.
To experience a little bit of what it means to live a little bit out of my comforts, and that definitely happened. And I realized that I didn't want to continue the path that I was going, that I really needed to be true to myself, and that was to follow my passions of music and film, entertainment, anything like that. And so I kind of started writing a list of things that I wanted to possibly do. And when you're dreaming, money's not part of the equation, so you can write down anything. And when you start writing it down, you start to manifest it.
Yeah.
And then you just continue on, you stay consistent, and things will come of it.
Expose themselves almost.
Yeah.
Very rarely in how we expect too.
Oh yeah, well that's
Yeah.
that's one of the beauties of life, because we have an idea, but what comes of it is just what really is gonna supposed to happen.
And I guess being open and aware to when those things come along, because I know from personal experience it's really easy to fixate on an idea of what you have, like the perfect image or how things should go, what the plan is, and obviously things never go according to plan. But in that process, the thing that basically is what you want, and then some comes along, and you're so fixated on what you're thinking about, it just passes right by and you miss that chance. So
that's easy to happen. Yeah,
it's like that, keeping that open flow of energy just constantly coming in and coming out. And just one of the best things I was ever told from a very, very smart man was I was going through kind of a tough time. I was very stressed out. I was trying to get my life together, and no matter what I did, it wouldn't work. And he just told me, he's like, try to sit back and just witness the world.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever role you want to play, you can play, because you get that choice. But just witness. And that is one of the best things I ever heard. One of the best things I applied, and especially in dreaming and manifesting things that you want. And witnessing, which requires being aware and aware of yourself and aware of what's going on.
I kind of did that accidentally growing up.
Accidentally?
Yeah, it's just kind of the way my cards played out. How you can, again, manifest things. So even as children, we kind of position ourselves where we think we want to be.
Yeah.
And whether that's the best idea or not, those are still adolescent ideas. So, but we create certain ideas, and then that's when hopefully we have a good support system, family system to help guide us and make the better decisions. But you know, it's really all. It's really all. I don't know. It's you know, I could go. I in my mind, I keep going deeper and deeper.
I know. I like that though. I like that because it really does come from the adolescence, especially as creative people, not just musicians, but creative types. Whether you're entertaining, whether you're writing, whether you know whatever it is, you know that I feel like even if you don't discover your quote unquote talents till later on in life, it's kind of who you are from the beginning, and being able to dream with ideas that aren't developed, to dream and think about things that you wouldn't even know where to begin. I mean, that's such a crucial part to growth. And I feel like a lot of people that have been successful and not successful, you know, whatever they define success as, have can look back to being a child and find multiple times in their life where, you know, ideas that they had manifested themselves into something much more mature, something much more detailed as life went on. So I don't think that anybody gets later on in life and discovers a creative outlet and it's just brand new. I think it's kind of always been there. They just found maybe the freight train to deliver that. Yeah. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of seeds that get planted in our brains throughout our life, and then we are who we are as the foundation. So, you know, it's like our brain is the earth, you know, as they say, and then seeds are planted. Some grow really fast, and we adhere to those ideas. Some grow really slow, and we may not grasp that idea until we're in our 20s, 30s, or 40s, or even later.
Yeah.
That's another beautiful, exciting part about life and getting older. You know, I look at people that are older, and you know, they got stories. There is something to be said about living that long. You know, whether you're in your 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s. I mean, oh my God, I can't even imagine. Well, I can imagine, and that would be fun to you know, as long as everything's good. But it's yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to you know, it's totally not a sidetrack. That's definitely what this is about. I love hearing that stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I said before multiple times on this podcast, is I'm only 24. I'll be 25 next month, and just in that time, you know, chasing music and being in a creative environment my whole life, there's already so many moments and things I can look back on when I'm young. You know, like you said, being 100 years old, looking back at you know, that many years, that many experiences, how you've changed, how many trials, and you know what worked, what didn't, what manifested over 50 years. Like, can you imagine being able to say that, like, this was an idea I had 50 years ago and it finally has become something today? Yeah, like, that's a crazy statement. And I mean, that's totally what it takes sometimes. But
that's not long. 50 years.
No, not at all. Especially for, like, you know, like especially in my generation, at least, it's very easy for us, as you know, I can only speak for musicians because that's what I am, but it's very easy for us to kind of say, oh, if by 28, if I don't have this, this, and this, then I have to succeed, and I have to find something new to do. I have to change my route. By 21, I have to do this. By you know, because we're trained that way. It's like, go to school. You have classes at certain times. You have to do it this and go through these grades 1, 2, 3, all the way to 12, and you go to 4 years of college. So everything's put on a timeline. Yeah. But what we soon realize after all that scheduling and, you know, enforcement of scheduling is that the time itself isn't going to work that way for the rest of our lives. Not you know, it all. Could, you know, something that happens in 1 year could be just as valuable as something that happens in 50 years, or less valuable or more valuable. The point is, you know, what kind of value are we able to see, to apply to it, to how are we respecting our ideas and how long they take. and are we going to give up on them? Are we going to pursue them? Are we going to maybe put them on the back burner until, a light comes on, whatever it may be. But it kind of comes back to what you're talking about, the awareness of things. Ooh, nice. Good ringtone. It's very jazzy. I like it. But yeah, no, absolutely. The awareness. Sorry.
Well, yeah, that keeps on unfolding,
Yeah.
and that was kind of what I was looking to touch on about getting older, is that as soon as we can accept that there's something, not specifically greater than us, but there's things greater than us,
Yeah.
and there's more out there, and we can be open to other ideas than our own and other ways of thinking than our own, and understand and accept that other people have other perspectives than what we have.
Yeah.
The layers of the onion start coming off. And I think we talked about this a little bit the other day, about how just when that, each new layer, it's so fresh, and you get a new whiff of it, and it's just invigorating, and it's exciting, and it brings joy to life to know that there's more, and it'll go forever, as long as we want to keep looking.
Oh, that's like the foundation of great music, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. One guy writes a song, or one guy plays a guitar and writes a great song,
Mm-hmm.
and brings someone else in to collaborate, perspective, as like you said, and it's the same thing. It can ideas that are different than ours that come together and create something that is bigger than us. It's not that we're trying to create something bigger than us, but collaborating from different. Music's a perfect
It just
perfect
happens.
example. You bring a whole band together and everyone puts their input, and all of a sudden you have this beautiful creation from 4 different people, or
Mm-hmm.
however many people in the band. But yeah, that's the foundation of great music. The willingness to not only be open to yourself and aware of yourself, to
Mm-hmm.
express what you need to, but then to take that to the other, the rest of the world, the other people that are willing to give their ideas and collaborate, and you come out with something incredible. I mean, that's metaphor for music, metaphor for life, all the way.
Yeah, it's magical. That's really what that's what really drew me to want to start the record label, is because my passion for music, and I understood kind of what it took at the time. Kind of understood what it took, and I knew friends. I had friends that were in bands, and so I wanted them to be able to showcase their talents, so that's kind of where that went.
And then that's the
And
best part
it's
about it.
super
Yeah.
important for people to have an outlet
Yeah.
for their art, whatever platform it's on. It's very important for people to have that creative space, a safe space, for that. So it's that's one thing.
Well, I mean that,
Like
and
you
it,
do.
yeah, it goes beyond just 2 people writing a song. Or like you said, you had friends that were in bands, and you had the idea or the resource or the ability to bring something new to the table to allow them to reach more people. Like that in itself is another collaborative process that makes things bigger than ourselves, which music is. It's bigger than us,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's why you can't get enough of it, because it's almost like drugs.
Well, it makes our chakras dance, which
Yeah.
in turn makes us dance.
What's that? It's a physical vibration. There's
Yeah.
nothing else like it.
Yeah.
It never stops traveling.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. I was enough when I was senior in high school. I was 18. I worked at a place called MRD, and they did magnetic resonance diagnostics.
Holy shit.
And this guy, yeah, it was awesome. This guy had a machine that would apply magnetic resonance to your body in areas that you were injured. And he had he had an idea because speakers are made of magnets and waves through, what our air, which is really our ocean. And so we feel it. We feel the ripples. And so he brought in a composer one day, and he set up a machine, and I sat in the room, and I sat up against this board, and he played all the different notes at different octave levels, and this machine read my body's reaction for each note.
Holy shit.
And so this doctor had this composer create 4 or 6 different albums to help with immunity, to help with stress, one to help with PMS, one to because of the way that the vibrations work with your body.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
there was just a pattern of things throughout my life that just kept showing me that music is medicine, because it can heal us, much like with everything else that
Not even emotionally, but like physically. It's physical vibration. Yeah.
it's beyond us. We don't even need to consciously be there. We can be sleeping and the music's playing, but it's the vibrations that are going through us. And that's where, when they get into meditation and they get into all these other
Like humming and
right, the
yeah.
ohms
Yeah.
and everything, it's to vibrate your body, and they say if you raise your vibration to a certain level, that you reach such clarity that nothing can bother you. You don't get sick. It's you got to maintain that, of course.
There's a science behind it.
It's not just, you reach it and you're there. Okay, it's not
We're
like
only
that.
human after all.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle that needs to be maintained, but it is possible. It is possible to meditate so deeply that you could be under the Arctic water for what this guy did, like minutes under there.
Really?
I mean, it's incredible, because you could raise your body temperature.
Yeah.
So it's really fascinating when you can get into the whole concepts of it.
This is a little bit more sciencey, but definitely on that same point. Now, forgive me because I don't remember the names or any of that, but I remember Einstein's name. Einstein had the theory of gravity waves long time ago, and it was considered ridiculous, because at the time there was absolutely nothing near the technology to measure this idea that he had of gravity waves being the ultimate measurement in the universe, or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And a few years ago, I can't remember what country he was from, but a physicist took up all of Einstein's studies, all of his papers, all of his theories, and started working with it, and discovered how to, read them more clearly and find them and measure and all this stuff. And so, long story short, he finds 2 black holes in our known universe. And these 2 black holes are so close together that they were facing each other. And he tracked them, and basically they were so strong and so close that they pulled out what was on the inside of each other. They pulled it out, so quote unquote what people call the other dimension, and it sent an intense gravity wave. And he had no idea what to expect. He didn't know what was coming. Gravity wave. What could that possibly mean?
Right.
And he measures it, and what he gets is nothing you'd expect, but it's actually a tone. It's a pitch. It's the exact middle note C that us as humans in this world have basically based all of our music theory off of.
Huh.
And I thought to myself after I heard about that, I was like, holy shit. There is no way that this music that we're feeling, that we're hearing, that we're creating is not traveling way beyond our lives, our realm, if you will.
Yeah.
It's what we think is the other dimension just gave us the first reading of the other side, and it was freaking music. It was a physical vibration, a gravity wave of the perfect C.
That's why people come together with music.
It can't help it. It's in our genetics.
Exactly. No matter what culture, no matter what color, no matter what political you put
Yeah.
on the right song, and people will just drop everything and kumbaya.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, and you with the right song,
Yeah.
and I think that's beautiful.
It's
I think it's rad.
it's untouchable.
Yeah,
I've said it before, and music is one of the untouchables.
yeah,
It's one of those things that just cannot be tampered with. It can't be, we cannot change our relationship with it.
yeah. And in some respect, it's kind of living in a fantasy world, if you will, because of this idea, this concept that a lot of music has of a world free of certain
Yeah.
things,
Oppression of some
oppressions,
sort.
if
Yeah.
you will. Yeah. And so it's easy to grasp on to that. It's inspirational.
Yeah, I mean it's there's we could go on for hours describing what it's like and what it feels like, and and you said a fantasy. It's almost like a fantasy, and as a musician, what I've come to learn is that the more I consider it a fantasy, all it really is me becoming even more present.
Mm-hmm.
You hear a song that you love so much, and you're sitting in your car, you're driving, and all of a sudden you feel like you're in another world. And it really feels that way. Same thing when you're playing a song, you're ripping on the guitar, epic guitar solo. It's like I'm the only one ever, and I'm on cloud nine. But in reality, it feels so good because we become so present with our energy, with our chakras, with our physical being, with everything. We become so physically present with that vibration that we feel like we're gods, or we feel like we're out of this world. But in reality, we're more connected than we've ever been. Like, that's a fucking superpower right there.
Oh, it really feels like one.
Yeah.
And I think everybody has those moments, whether we acknowledge them or recognize them.
Yeah.
But we all have those moments. But if we can practice it, we'll get better at it, and it just gets better and stronger. And
see, once again, that's where that awareness thing comes in. Like,
yeah,
having those moments to become more aware of those moments, to know how to get there, to know what it feels like, to know how to almost, like you said, practice, to train yourself to say, hey, this is my highest state of being. I want to thrive and push to be here as much as possible, knowing I can't live there forever. I can't always be there,
Right.
But to practice that every day, you get closer and you become more, just more willing to see it, more willing to accept it, to witness it, to be aware of it, to feel it.
Right.
And that's, if you can't, and maybe I'm being too bold here, but if you can't find that within what you love or what you're passionate about, then you need to rethink how you're approaching it, because you can be missing out on something that genetically we were born to feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But then, yeah. Perspective.
Yeah, perspective.
It goes back to that. It's we can go into a situation and things cannot go our way, and we can get upset about it, or we can go, fucking Murphy. That
Yeah.
son of a bitch, he's always
He called it.
He's always fucking with me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
It went wrong.
let's move on. And it's
What do
like,
you got for me
gotta
next?
laugh. We gotta laugh at life, because it's like, what are we gonna always be serious? No, we need to have fun, and we need to keep it easy, and then just everything will fall in place.
I'm in love with that whole statement.
Yeah,
That's wonderful. I couldn't agree more. It's easier said than done, of course.
absolutely.
Easier said than done.
And
but
that's why if we collectively, more people start talking about being more conscious and discussing, actually talking with each other again, as we did back in the late 80s or prior to, I should say, the 2000s.
yeah.
But start talking about issues again and discussing them in a
Open platform.
But understand that everybody has their own outlook on it, and that's okay. As long as everybody can, at the end of the day, give a hug and say, okay, you know what, you got plenty, I got plenty. Oh, you don't have plenty? Here you go. Here's something
Yeah.
like to help out. But people say that it's not. People say that it's not the way things used to be.
Yeah.
But evolution.
I don't like that statement.
But evolution happens, and that means nothing will ever be the way it used to be.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's supposed to be.
And it's our job to adapt to that and discover the new ways, the more advanced ways, if you will, to connect.
Exactly, because the universe is bigger than us.
Yeah.
And we either adapt with it or we die out. And that's just the way it works. And, there is something special about humans, but at the end of the day, we are an organism.
Yeah.
We're visiting through this vessel.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
It's a really fun experiment. I
like that, experiment. It's a really, really interesting way to describe it, but it definitely resonates with me.
Yeah,
it's an experiment.
Yeah,
because that's what it is. No matter how much people want to claim things or follow things or whatever it is, at the end of the day, we're all going to die, and no one can come back and say this is exactly what happens.
Right.
Or this is exactly what life stands for. This is what the meaning of life. And of course, that's always a question that's asked. But with that knowledge, like, how can you not consider it just so exciting? That means that everything you do is no different than an experiment, because there will be an outcome that you don't know yet. Maybe you do know, but maybe it's a little different. Whatever the outcome is, you're experimenting to see what it is. Mm-hmm. With every choice, with every movement, with every thought, with every breath, like every use of our five senses and then some. So I really, really dig that experiment. Mm-hmm. I'm going to think about that a lot.
Cool. Yeah, it's that's why we need to embrace everybody's time here, because in all actuality they're just a reflection of us. We manifested them in our lives. Yeah. We put them in our lives. If we don't like something that they're doing, it's because we may possibly do that ourselves.
Yeah, that's an important one to pay attention to.
And there's a lot of ego that goes on around this planet. And I think that gets in the way of a lot of us.
Once again, that's like connects right to music. Mm-hmm. The metaphor of music is the metaphor for life. The whole idea of experimenting, like the willingness to experiment, like you have to know that there isn't going to be a solid outcome. There isn't going to be like something that defines you forever. Sitting down, say maybe you record a record and tell yourself, oh, what if people don't like it? What if this and what if that? You're never going to know until you sit down, put the work in, and give it your best. Mm-hmm. Whether it's shitty, quotes, shitty or not, mm-hmm. according to other people, it's still what you put out there. You experimented, you lived. You put it out there, and, the ego is really what makes us consider what if people don't like it when you really break it down. Because the only reason that it's a good thought to have, but if it's stopping you from going ahead and doing what you love and doing what you're passionate about, then all that is your ego saying, can I handle a blow? Mm-hmm. And then immediately you define their opinion as taking a blow. Like that's not even, it shouldn't even be on paper, shouldn't even be a thought. You're giving what you give to the world, especially musically, like so specifically musically. You have to give, and you have to give, and you continuously give. And if you get some back, great. But if you're stepping into a completely vulnerable place of something that is a physical vibration that is much bigger than just our world and our beings, if you're stepping into that worried about what kind of pushback you're going to get from your family or friends, or maybe the few fans that you have, then I hate to be so harsh, step away. Don't even step in the first place. You don't deserve something so beautiful in your hands.
Wait until you're right with it.
Yeah.
Wait until you're right with yourself first.
Yeah, because it takes guts. Yeah, it takes guts. It takes balls. It takes what you had back in the day to start Domain Records. Speaking of which, Domain Records, you have Domain Records, you have Domain, the smoke shop now on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. What is the name Domain? Where did that come from?
Well, when I so
I've always wanted to ask you this, by the way.
When I was living out of state, right out of high school, when I came up and I started writing down all my ideas of what I wanted to do, One was a record label, one was a record store, one was a recording studio, and the other one was a bar and nightclub.
Jesus.
And so those four together, and again, I was 19, I'm dreaming, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this.
I'm all about it.
And so I looked at them on the paper and I said, okay, well, I need to come up with a name. And I looked at them and I said, well, and it was 1995. So the internet was kind of just coming out.
Yeah.
And on a mainstream level. And it was still the 14.4 dial-up modems and everything.
Rock and roll, man.
Yeah, it was
rock and roll.
It was awesome, but brutal at the same time. But yeah, so I was looking at that. So with the web just coming out and looking at that, I said, okay, well, that could be, if I had all that, that would be my domain. But looking at the computer now, I was like, well, I don't want to spell it like that domain. I want to spell it different because in my own way, I think I'm different as much as I may not be. So I spelled it DOUGHMAIN instead of DO.
So literally like a domain name.
Yeah,
I love that, man.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like, I
so into that.
Softened it a little bit and made it a little bit bigger of a word, and
literally softened dough is a lot softer.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I've always been a baker.
Really?
Yeah, well,
You like to bake?
Oh yeah, that's why I have a head shop.
A what? A head shop?
My store.
Oh.
Yeah.
Never heard that before. But I love your store.
Thank you.
Anybody that's listening and is in the Thousand Oaks area, go to Domain.
That's right.
On Thousand Oaks Boulevard.
Yeah.
I go there for everything, man.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Well, it's funny because you go into so many shops, and especially smoke shops. Like it's just it's got such an image to smoke shops when you go in, whether you're buying cigarettes or tobacco or pieces or whatever you're buying. There's always such a, you kind of prepare yourself for a certain experience. Right. The same way you prepare yourself to go to the freaking grocery store. Like everything has its, you're used to this thing.
Yeah.
When you walk into your shop though, you don't get that vibe. You walk in, you're like, I'm in a place of not only I feel comfortable, but this person cares and is interested in what he's doing. He's not just putting a shop up to make money, but he cares about every piece of equipment, every piece of anything in here.
Well, I appreciate that.
So it's definitely, and I think that's such an important approach no matter what you do. Once again in music, what do you care about? What are you presenting? It doesn't matter if 8 billion people have played guitar before you. When you pick up a guitar, what does that mean? It doesn't matter if there's a million other smoke shops. When you open yours, what are you doing? When you sit down to watch a movie, how are you taking? It's all about that intention. And so, even like I said, even walking into a shop to writing a song to meeting someone new, like if you can start to see those intentions, it really changes your experience. Something my dad told me actually, and I've kept with me always. He said, he kind of referred to the whole thing that Buddha talked about, the whole expectation is a formula for disappointment. And he's like, I agree with that to a certain level. He's like, but never, ever, ever, ever forget what you expect out of yourself. He's like, because the more aware you become of your own expectations in yourself, the more easy it is, your practice in recognizing those things. So when you meet people, you have an easier time seeing what their expectations in themselves are. And if you guys match on your expectations in yourselves, that's where great relationships form. That's where great things come from. He's like, if you can learn to never expect from anyone else, but to always pay attention to what you expect from yourself, that's when you start to see the world differently. Yeah. And that's totally comes with the intention concept.
Right. And because I think that's great advice for a father to give his son, or anyone actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's we spend so much time looking at others that it's easy to expect more out of others, blame others, and all that. And, it's harder to put it on us and say, well, wait a minute, what are my expectations? Yeah. Am I willing to do what I'm expecting that person to do?
For sure.
Or am I just kind of gonna just play that one lopsided role.
Yeah.
You know, because and then it's really hard to accept someone that does that.
Yeah.
You know, and so all we can do is focus on ourselves and make sure that we're doing the best job that we possibly can.
Yeah, and then, I mean, once you start to pay attention to your own expectations, you let yourself down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe not the best way to put it, but then you start to find your inner demons and you start to, you know, be hard on yourself. And I think that is a foundation being built if you're willing to push, you know, work through it. I think that's a foundation being built for real passions and creativity. You know, once again, my dad, he's a painter, world famous painter.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
So I've had the luck of gaining a lot of knowledge and wisdom from him, and he used to talk about paintings or creative process in general, and he would talk about it's like being pregnant for 9 months. Like, it's painful. Something's growing, something's building, and you give birth to something beautiful. He's like, but if you're not willing to suffer through that misery and push through it only to find out something beautiful will become of it, he's like, then you're just going to be miserable forever. You have to have that creative outlet. You have to be willing to fight those battles. Mm-hmm. And, you know, for me growing up as a kid, that was a bit of a heavy concept for me to accept. And as much as I felt it a lot, it was hard for me to really look it in the face. So I came up with this whole response to it saying, you know, during the misery, you have to tell yourself, what if? You have to have the what if factor. Especially, you know, for writing songs for me. Like, a lot of the songs I write, it's whether it's my personal experience or it's someone else's experience that I've learned from or heard about or whatever it is, I always try to think about the what if factor. Take a scenario and change it up, and what if it were like that? Now try to put myself in that place, in that place of struggle, that place of misery, that place of, you know, difficulty, and write from that point. Because that's where it's almost like a loophole in the whole process to get more birth out of it. But it's true, that balance. Like, if you can go through that misery, if you can, you know, whether it's for the creative process, whether it's for your life, whether it's for discovering anything, and then find those what if, the fantasy, the what could be, all that stuff, and really put yourself in that place, you know, it manifests. Mm-hmm. It comes alive. It happens. And maybe not physically in front of you, but internally, you start to see those things. And, you know, that's, especially as a creative person, especially as a musician, you have to do that because you learn the most about what you're willing to do for it, what you're willing to say, and what you're willing to go through. You know, how hard are you willing to fight to get this song out, to really express these lyrics? Are you going to use the first draft, or are you going to sit there and rewrite this song 600 times till the lyrics are perfect and really describe what you want? Right. You know, there's that factor of, you can't go through that unless you learn how to deal with the misery and find the lights throughout that process.
Yeah, and going back to what we've touched on a few times.
Yeah.
Why are you making that song?
Yeah.
Are you making the song to make money? Are you making the song because you have a passion for music and you really want the world to heal and feel better with your music? You know,
or connect to it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I can tell you that the music that has more longevity in the world has clear intentions when it was written. That's for sure.
Now, when you say clear intentions, do you mean lyrically or the actual music itself?
Purpose.
You could feel it.
You can feel it. A lot of I don't know if you've heard a lot of stories about a lot of songs that are still popular today from the 60s or 70s that
mostly what I listen to
were accidental.
Yeah.
You know, even in the 80s or 90s, they just kind of, I mean, what Green Day's American Idiot.
Yeah.
That album was a makeup for the album that they already recorded that was stolen out of the recording studio. Oh, so they got together real quick and just bust that out. And it was
it changed the game.
It did. To
say the least, it changed
it was
the freaking game.
Yeah. And I mean, and then they made a Broadway musical out of it. So it's you never know. You never know what's going to be your hit. You just got to be true to. We need to be true to ourselves, and then then we'll be able to shine in the way that we're supposed to, and then everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody wins when everybody can be themselves. You know, oppression is darkness and stifles people's light. You know,
Yeah.
everybody needs to like be themselves. So, and then they can create the best art, the best music, the best food. I mean, there's so many things.
So many outlets.
There's so many things in this world that are just so great
Yeah.
and fun.
I love that.
You know.
Well,
So-
it's and just to be clear on the whole writing something that heals and whatnot. I feel like it's easy, and this is a totally opinion based. Like I'm a total metalhead for sure. Metalhead. I listen to everything. I really do. But I mean, obviously, Metallica is my favorite band. I like a lot of heavy rock, a lot of metal and whatnot, and I hear all the time, oh, that music is too angry. That music makes me upset. This and that, which is fine. I get that. That's cool. But for me, and a little insight on it, and I think for a lot of fans, a lot of people that listen to that kind of music, it's not necessarily that they're saying evil things or mean things or angry things. It's that we have this, this feeling inside of us that is almost anger, is rage, whatever you want to classify it as. And it's so difficult to really process what it is when we listen to these heavy grooves, these heavy riffs, and like even the sound of an electric guitar just, palm muting, double, alternate picking away just super fast. Like, it's aggressive, yes, but it's almost like instead of going out and punching 10 people, we just sat there and that vibration touched that part of us that needed healing, and it released it for us. And that's an approach I try to take every now and again with the music, right? Like, what am I trying to tap into, and why am I tapping into it? If I write something aggressive, am I writing something aggressive to piss someone off? Or am I writing it aggressively because that's what I'm feeling, and I think that someone will listen to it? And that part of them that they're having trouble with will be healed through channeling with that sound, And so that whole healing concept is really like once again the intention of things.
Right.
You could write the death metal, hardcore, just crazy, insane riffs and lyrics, but out there if you do it with the right intention, someone could be listening to that and finding the most healing experience they've ever had. The same thing with listening to a beautiful acoustic guitar or instrumental.
Exactly, because they're on the same plane. They're on the same plane as you were when you wrote the song.
Yeah.
And not everybody craves ground beef. Some people want, the filet instead.
And that's why it's so important to have variety.
Exactly.
Because a song that got you through your teens, you could get to your 20s and you hate that song. You would never want to listen to it again.
Exactly.
Because that was your time.
Right.
And that's beautiful to me.
Yeah, there's some music that I listen to now that, I wore the tapes out,
Yeah.
And I listen to it now and I say, I'm grateful that music was there for me then, but it's not my thing now, and that's okay. So I need to put you to the side, and I'll enjoy you every now and then when you come around, but I'm breaking up with you.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And so I need to move on because my tastes and my wavelength, or not wavelength, but my speed, my vibration is a little different.
Yeah.
And I think that's good. I think that's important that we change as we get older.
I think that's another thing to consider.
Don't want to stay stagnant.
Yeah, for sure. That's speaking. Totally not wanting to stay stagnant. Like, people bash on artists for releasing an album that wasn't like the last one, and sure, maybe it's not good for whatever opinion is, but I honestly really enjoy seeing that, because it means that they've grown since the last album and they're willing to accept, like you said, their vibration. They're not staying stagnant.
And they're willing to take risks, because it's a lot of the musicians have to go along with what the boss says, as far as how the music's going to sound at the end of the day, or when they're being under a major label.
Well, see, that's the beautiful part about today, though.
Right. So they give up a lot. So it's nice when they can say, you know what, I'm not gonna continue doing the same fucking thing. I'm gonna switch it up, and people are gonna hate it, and that's okay, because not everybody should like it. If everybody liked the same thing, this world would be fucking boring.
Yeah.
You know,
Screw that.
Exactly. You know, going back, I mean, that's what the United States is perfect for that, and we need to not lose sight of that, because what made this country so great is all the different type of people.
Yeah.
And we need to embrace that,
Yeah.
and keep that going, and not feed into other people's agendas.
Well, a perfect example, and like I said, I'm a Metallica fan, so I'm going to use Metallica as an example. One of my favorite stories is so Metallica released Kill 'Em All, thrash metal, just fucking badass.
Yeah.
Love that album, right? And when Ride the Lightning came out, people were a little confused because this thrash metal band comes on the scene and they just overtake the world with Kill 'Em All. Just incredible riffs, incredible shredding, this and that. And what was that what was Ride the Lightning, like 83, 84? And this heavy metal band for the time releases Fade to Black. Releases a song that is considered a ballad. And realistically, the first heavy metal band to release a ballad, and man, did people hate it. Look it up. People hated that song. They hated that album. There was so much pushback from the fans. They lost almost all their fans, but then they gained almost
I'm old enough, I know.
Well, yeah, of course. But what the great
yeah.
part about that is, because they weren't willing to stay stagnant, because they evolved and they said, we're going to try something new, they may have lost this little portion because people weren't willing to change with them. But what they did is they opened the gates of that heavy metal music, that heavy rock, to the rest of the world that did look down upon it and said, hey, there's a song I can listen to.
Yeah.
I like that song. There's something to them. And then they kept following it up and never lost sight of, their heavy riffs, the James Hetfield right hand down, downstroke is just incredible. But that was such an important point in music, I think, because an entire genre was opened up to an idea that they could do this.
Well, they understood that the masses want more melody.
Yeah.
And less time changes.
Yeah.
Something that they can dance to.
Yeah.
Something that, and pop music will always reign. And so if they can make a pop metal, as kind of funny as that sounds, that's kind of what it becomes, because it's not that hard like what you knew of it was, like the thrash metal. It's just another form of metal.
And just to clarify for anybody that's listening to this right now, the concept of pop music, regardless of genre, just to be totally clear, is popular.
Popular, yes.
And I feel like that term has such a negative connotation now, because they sold out to be pop. It's like, that's bullshit. They made something that was so good and so new it became popular, and that was the norm. Like, that is fucking rock and roll.
It's not like Madonna or Michael Jackson metal. No, it's just a popular version of metal.
I was watching
thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, no, that's something that I often run into a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't want to be a pop artist. I'm like, what does that freaking mean?
I mean, it's what the person translated into their brain, what the person told them it meant.
Yeah.
It's
like it becomes popular because people are willing to innovate and, cross those boundaries and not stay stagnant, like you said, and, evolve and grow and get to a point where they're creating what's the norm, what's popular now.
Yeah.
Like, shit, if you can make a pop record, good for you.
Yeah. I mean, if you listen to the first Incubus records, it's a totally different band.
Game changers, yeah.
But when they came out, I think it was Morning View.
Yeah.
That it was, night and day.
Yeah.
Night and day. So, but it's
once again another sound that a band changed that actually redefined a lot of genres. They opened up a door that led to so many bands, not just like them, but bands that were willing to go even farther. Like
Right, because they still had the roots from where they came.
yeah, they still remembered why they were doing it.
Yes.
Um,
Sometimes we just need to adapt a little bit to get our message out there.
James Hetfield said in an interview, last thing about Metallica, I promise. James Hetfield said in an interview,
I've seen him once.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd you like him?
In New Orleans.
When was this?
This was in 2012.
Fuck yes, is Death Magnetic tour?
Actually, it was the Voodoo Festival in New Orleans, and they filled in because Billy Joe Armstrong had a drug relapse, or he
man,
whatever. So he had to bail off the tour, his own tour, and go into rehab, and so Metallica filled in for Green
How
Day.
great was it?
It was pretty cool. It was really fucking cool, to be honest with you.
I think I've seen them 9 times now.
Yeah.
I've done some ridiculous shit to see Metallica.
No.
Some I'm not proud of, but he said, especially when they were younger as a band, he said we wanted to write songs. We wrote music because it wasn't out there. We heard something that we wanted to actually hear. So we thought to ourselves, let's just write that. Let's write the music that we want to listen to.
That's perfect.
And that was like, amidst so many great things that he has said and other musicians said, that is such a crucial thing.
Mm-hmm.
To write music that we wanted to hear because it wasn't out there. Like if you can find a sound that isn't out there that you want to hear, that's what you need to do. That's your fucking responsibility. If you have the talent or the ability to create in any platform, music in this way, and you find something that isn't there that you want, you fucking do it. There's no question. You give everything you've got to that because that is bigger than you.
Yeah.
That is just one of my favorite things I've ever heard. Speaking of all this creation and music and whatnot, you back to your label, Domain Records.
Mm-hmm.
We're having such an enlightened conversation. I'm like bringing it back down to this thing, but it really applies because I want to know more about how you approached it because you're such a deep guy. You're such an enlightened person. You care so intensely about, in my opinion, the right things, the things that matter more than just what'll sell the best, what'll be the best, all that stuff. You care more about the individual and what they're bringing to the plate and how they're affecting the world around them. And I think that's so rare, especially in the music industry, of people that aren't the actual musicians. So I think you're a very, very special person in that sense. And I kind of want to pick your brain about it. Like in the sense of, these bands, first off, like how did you, when you said they were your friends, how did you approach them and say, hey, I want to record you, or hey, I have a label? What was your first take on them?
Well, they didn't all start as my friends. they just, the family grows. But the very first few were friends. And so I said, hey, I want to start up a record label. If I put you in the studio, can I record your music? And they said, okay. So
where'd you find a studio?
I worked full time and saved money and we started recording them. Shoots, man, it's been so long. It was so the first recording was Insurgents, and they found the studio. They found the studio to do it. They had already recorded one EP on their own, but I came in and I wanted to record them. I thought they were a really good band. So I recorded them.
So was it someone else's studio that you guys rented out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we would go in there, rent it out. We did that for all of them.
And you released the music under Domain
Records.
Under that label.
Correct.
So the label itself didn't actually have a location. You just rented studios, and you yourself was basically what was Domain Records.
Correct.
So what role did you play in the studio? Like, did you walk in and just run the board, or did you help them produce songs? Did you write with them? What roles did you play amongst that?
I gave them full creative. I didn't want to interfere with what they had going on, because I looked at it like, I chose them because of what they do.
Yeah.
So why would I want to change that?
Can I just have that? I'm going to cut that clip out of the recording and just have it on repeat on giant speakers through all the major cities that involve music. That was beautiful.
That's the way I look at it. So
oh man, I love that. That is just so wonderful.
I would go in there and I would sit and I would watch the recording process, and sometimes I would not. It depends on what I was able to do. I did as much as I could, but I loved the whole creation process. That's really what it is.
So, but you funded everything.
Yeah, I funded everything, and it started with just a few songs, and that's that.
So, did you have any contracts that were signed between you and the band, or the band and the label?
Yeah, that came later as I understood what I was doing more.
So, I mean, what kind of you don't have to get into super detail about specifics of the contracts, but what was kind of like the average deal you would make with a band? Like a band comes to you and says, "Hey, we want to record this album and we want you to distribute it through your label and whatnot." What were your guidelines? Do you own the masters? Do you own the music? Do they own the music? Or that, how did that work?
Well, if the label paid for the recordings, then the label owns the recordings.
Okay.
And then it's all up for discussion, negotiation on how long before the band can record those songs for something else. But it's my whole thing is I'm trying to control less because it's just an illusion anyway. Okay. So if people really want to break a contract, it's like it's not the life end all. It's okay, good luck.
Yeah.
Because we all make choices, and a piece of paper with a signature, at the end of the day, it sucks if somebody wants to break it, but usually they're going to lose in the end. Yeah. Because they're not seeing it through.
And that's beyond really
it's something within them, and it has, there's so many,
Did you ever work with a band that you had to kind of cut a contract with, or like break a contract?
They all kind of worked out
smoothly
the way that they were supposed to, looking back, oh yeah, I wish this would have worked out better.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It plays out the way it should, and it maybe all that were the seeds that had planted trees that are fruiting now.
Yeah.
Look, we're sitting here today
talking about these records.
These records that came out 18 years ago.
Jesus.
The first one that came out was 1997.
Shit.
And that was pretty awesome because it was kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to, going back to the intensity of hardcore music.
Yeah.
I remember I was playing one of the bands really loud in my room. My mom came over and she, this is going back, right? Because I'm still living at home. And my mom comes over. She's like, "Oh my God, that's crazy music. What is that? It's so, they're so angry." And I said, "Mom, these guys are hardcore Christians." And she's like, "Oh, well, maybe they should just not be so angry about it." And it's like, because then I had another band that was hardcore and they were anti-Christian, anti-religion.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to show that there's balance.
Yeah.
You know, and both
And
sides.
that didn't matter. It was, it's the music that we're doing here.
Right. You know,
But regardless, like your mom listens to both of them, that wouldn't make a difference. They're both just hardcore music.
exactly.
It's just too much.
Yeah, and
It's a pretty cool statement there. Yeah.
So some people can break through that initial shock.
Yeah.
And dig down to see what's really going on.
Yeah.
You know, why won't that tree grow?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep watering it.
Why is it?
Well, why won't it grow? I'm just gonna keep watering it. It's like, well, why don't you dig the soil back a little bit? You know, check it out. See if it's if you're waterlogging it, if you're drowning it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody's growing marijuana. You should know that by now.
Hell yeah. So you have the only person that's not growing, and I have the yard to do it.
Oh, you have a beautiful yard.
I would love to start getting some plants out here.
Your yard's like a park.
I'd just be worried about my dogs peeing on it or eating away at it or something.
Oh, you know what? Actually, okay, so get this. And I learned this during the research for an animation I'm working on, Rolling Hills, that keef is actually a deterrent for animals to eat the plant.
Really?
Because it's psychoactive, that it is a natural deterrent for animals to eat the plant.
Damn. The ultimate plant.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. So
that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
I'm just going to forget the yard. I'm going to plant that all over the rugs in my house and not being on this shit.
So that you know.
That's pretty
incredible. The more you know, right?
The more you know.
Dun, dun.
So, back to the records and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you gave them total artistic freedom. Mm-hmm. So that means they wrote the songs, produced the songs, they chose which songs went on the album and the order of them and all that stuff then.
Yeah.
What about the artwork? All them too?
All
or
them.
whoever they hired?
Yeah. Well, I yeah, whoever they wanted to bring on board for it. And,
yeah. Did you fund that as well?
I funded everything.
Holy shit.
I funded
Good for
everything.
you, man.
From
you're like a godsend. You're like a hero.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's what I felt I needed to do. You know, and so I went with that.
It's an honor to know you then.
Oh, well, I don't.
That's
thanks, but
especially in an era where that was the big show, getting a record label and distributing, to do what you were doing in that time. I mean, it's different to do it now. Say you got money saved up, like, oh yeah, I can just help you produce your stuff and stream it, whatever. It's a totally different game.
It's a totally different game.
To do it the way you did it back when it wasn't like this, that's, I mean, if you want the perfect example of I care about something and that's why I'm doing it, everything else doesn't matter, then there it is.
Yeah.
That's your fucking, open to that page in the book. There's your definition, a picture of Josh doing what he did,
There's a
doing what he does.
Whole lot of sacrifice there. Yeah.
So with all that, why did you leave? Why'd you stop?
I needed a break. I started it as a fan, and I started to lose touch with that because of the way that the last three albums, well, no, not the last three, but the way three albums ended up, and it was a lot of heartbreak, and so I was taking it personal.
Yeah.
And I have a wife, and my kids were super young at the time, and so it took a lot from me personally, and it took a toll on my home life. So I needed to just kind of put the brakes on and step away and rethink what I was doing, why I was doing it, and to remind myself that I had the best albums growing up in front of me.
Yeah.
So it was like, where can I invest my energy? Because at the end of the day, once we're out of energy, we don't have anything else.
Yeah.
So or we're not good with what we're trying to do. So it was important to me to watch my children grow.
I think that is a beautiful example of self-respect. That's what I'm hearing. And I say that because you walked into something because you cared about it and you wanted to be a part of it, because you knew what it was. You knew what music was to you, and it made you feel a certain way. And it was special. It was beyond making money or having success or friends and fame. It was beyond all that for you. And to succeed in that path to the level that you did, and then to be however long into it, basically invested so much of your time to reach a point where it wasn't that feeling anymore, to walk away from it. I mean, that's self-respect. That says that what I feel, I respect myself and who I am as a person. And, who Josh is, cares about music, cares about how I feel about it, cares about the passion behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And if that goes away, then I want nothing to do with it. Like, I don't know if I can name anyone else, that I know that has been through that one, or more importantly, has been able to look at themselves and say, hey, it's been 12 years. I've been doing this. It's working, but I don't feel the same way I do anymore. You know what? I'm going to step down. I'm going to find something else to do, because sitting down and listening to a record that I love is more important than being in the studio and funding a band to record the next great album. That right there, for me, I mean, I admire that on so many levels, but it's just so much self-respect. It's so much self-awareness and so much self-love and compassion. That's just such... It's kind of like that old that saying where it's like, you have to be a fan of music. It doesn't matter if you're a musician or not. Like, you have to be a fan of music. Mm-hmm. You have to know what that's like. And I feel like that's where that foundation came from. And that's...
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was 5 or 6 years old and I put my penny on the Columbia Music House thing, that it would come in the mail.
Yeah.
And you'd put your penny there and they would send you 6 tapes, cassettes. And you only had to buy like 3 or 4 more over a certain amount of time. They were like twice as much as they were in the store, but I just always craved music. It was just something, and a lot of people do. A lot of people do, and that's a great thing, because that's what keeps it going.
Yeah.
Because when some people do need to take a break, there's other people that can keep it going.
Yeah.
Because music will never die.
It can't.
It's
untouchable.
There's a great museum in I believe it's Scottsdale, Arizona, where instruments of the world.
Oh man.
And it just it was so cool, because it just shows that people will make instruments out of anything that can create a tune,
even a sound, anything
that you can tap, anything that you can strum, anything that you can hum. People will.
Wow.
To make themselves feel better, because people want to feel happy.
Yeah.
And that's why in our current society, hardcore drug use is so out of control.
Yeah.
Because people are deeply unhappy, but people aren't really willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
People need it. It's okay to talk about.
Yeah.
We need to heal our minds.
Well, it takes a lot of self-compassion, and
yeah. And it's out there. We just need, the more people talk about it, the more people will understand that, hey, you know what? You're just like me. Oh my God, how cool. Do you feel this? Yeah, I do. Oh my God, that's cool.
I'm not alone in the world anymore.
Exactly.
It's almost like music, what we get from music, we're getting from the people next to us.
Yeah.
Because what does music make you feel if not alone? You relate to something, you feel something, that sound makes you feel good, that lyric makes sense to you. Imagine sitting down next to a friend, next to a family member, next to anybody, and really digging deep, and imagine speaking so genuine, like so vulnerably and so honestly, the same way musicians or songwriters write their music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you imagine having that fucking conversation? That's fucking rock and roll right there.
That's
That's
great.
so amazing.
Those are the best conversations.
Hell yes.
I've always loved having those conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we got a lot of that today. So, were there any repercussions though? Walking away, like, did you lose relationships with bands? Did you owe people anything? Did something like was there a lot of repercussion from walking away from all of what you had, basically like an empire?
No, because everything kind of ended on its own prior. It worked out kind of. It was time, and so yeah, there were no repercussions. I don't think so anyway. There might be like a bunch of people talking shit behind my back, but
It's inevitable.
no, but I it I don't think about that, and I wouldn't think that anyway. But I've always done my best, so that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, I am grateful for all the opportunities that I had with the bands, because I learned a lot. I hope they learned a lot. Maybe not specifically about the music industry, but maybe about something in life. Because we're all we're all journeying through this. So it's it was a really cool experience. Met a lot of cool people. I still have a lot of friendships from them. One of the guys that was in Fermata, he was in one of the other bands that I had, Blue Root, and I'm working with him today. Actually, we're collaborating on some different scripts and things.
So, speaking of collaborating on different scripts and things, walking away from the music industry, not being a musician, you're an incredibly creative human being. I want to know what's your creative outlet? What do you do now? Like, for creativity, at least.
I first and foremost like to write.
Right.
Whatever is flowing through me. I used to, when I was young, I used to write a lot of poetry, which made sense to write lyrics and become a singer, but no, that wasn't my path. And so I kind of fell off that path for a long time. And then in 2012 I had some things, a rocky point in my life, and I needed to come back to me and remember what makes me happy, because I was doing a lot of things that weren't making me happy. But I was just following along, so
doing what you're supposed to.
Right. So what do I like? I like being creative. What is that? I like to write. And so I started writing stories, and I started writing screenplays.
Wow.
So it's kind of I've always been into film, acting. I did some acting when I was younger, not too much, but it's always been a thing there. And so I felt that I wanted to really cultivate that.
Yeah. So are you working on any projects now with the writing?
Yeah. So there's a few in the works, but
any you can talk about right now? I know how that goes.
Well, so there's an animation. I'm helping write. And
Rolling Hills.
Rolling Hills.
That one right on.
Yeah, Rolling Hills. It's a music. It's an animation based off of around with music and cannabis.
Nice. And good combo.
Yeah,
Great combo.
Yeah, it's a lot of education. It's a lot of education and comedy, and so it's really funny. So we're just looking for a home for it right now.
Right on.
But you can check out all the animation on at Rolling Hills USA on Instagram.
Rolling Hills USA.
Yeah, no G. It's like you're rolling a joint.
I like it.
Yeah.
Rolling. So there's really not a day that goes by where you're not creative in some way or another.
You know, it's
Or at least let me rephrase that, intentionally creative.
Oh well, no. It just, yeah. I mean, well, I can't say that because there probably are some days where I'm flatlined.
Yeah.
You know, and that happens.
Just soul healing.
Yeah, that's the universe saying, "Hey, buddy, slow down."
Yeah.
You know, just slow down because it's not a race, and I'm cool with it not being a race.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because
I think that's like I'd say that's one of the top 3 things to really accept in any sort of creative career.
yeah,
It's not a race. Patience.
It's not a race, and therefore it's not a competition.
Yeah.
You know, so we're not competing against anybody else. We're only
Doing what we're doing.
doing what we're doing.
Rock and
Yeah.
roll, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for the cartoon. I'm excited to see what comes of it.
Yeah, well, I'd hope so, seeing as how
I'm one of the characters. Huh?
you're one of the characters.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty stoked.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun.
I think you guys had a little. What do they say? Is it niche or is it niche? I hear it different.
Niche.
Niche. He said niche.
Yeah.
I think you guys got one there with the whole. Throw cartoon in there, throw music in there, and then throw the hot topic of today's world is cannabis and the education in it.
Yeah.
And who better than you to really show that? It's
Well, I have something to say with that for sure, but there's a lot more that I've learned since starting the project,
yeah,
and I just think that one of the raddest parts about it is that it's 99.99% animals, and everything in the world is alive.
yeah.
So it's really cool, and anything can happen, and it kind of gives. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm excited to see this come to fruition to the actual public, because I think, like I said, niche. It's I think it's really, you guys are ahead of the game with that, and I think it's really going to be something that people look to, something that people watch for fun, watch for a lot of reasons, but I think it's going to really reach all different types of people, whether they're fans of music, fans of marijuana, fans of cartoons, or not any of those things. I think it's going to reach, and I think it's because it's not only incredibly creative, but it's got people like you behind it, and that is the core of all of it, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that, but there are 2 other creative minds behind the project as well.
You, Gorilla,
And Megan.
Yeah.
Gorilla is the artist drawing all the characters.
I just might have to have him on here. He's got a pretty epic story about being a cartoonist from Fox. Let's see, The Simpsons.
And Family Guy.
Family Guy. Did a little bit of Futurama too, I think he said.
I don't know about that one, but he did. He worked on some other ones.
Yeah.
We don't need to drop too many names.
Yeah.
But he has some experience in the animation world, and his character. I mean, every time I look at some of these characters, it just brings a smile.
Yeah.
Because it's we sit down, and it's the whole creation process.
Yeah.
It's going into this fantasy world, getting out of what we see and deem as reality, and having fun, and getting back to that child within us.
Yeah.
And saying, oh, what if this happened? Like,
We can make that happen.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine you're walking down, and just come up with the most ludicrous story, but then when you have these really cute, funny characters doing it, it bridges the gap.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited. It's a great idea. It's a great concept. It really, like everything you just said, it really grasps the out there ideas, but because it's cute little characters being funny about it, like you can listen to it, and it's also got you guys behind it, the all you all of you working on it. And it's very, I don't know much about it other than what you just shared with me, of course. And before that, I knew that I was a character at one point.
The fact that you're in the band Apophis.
Apophis.
Yeah, and you're an armadillo.
Armadillo, fuck yeah.
Yeah, and your drummer Eric is no, I take that back. You're the Aardvark.
Aardvark.
You're the Aardvark, and Eric's the armadillo. Yeah.
Heavy metal duo.
Yeah, rock and roll. It's rad. It's rad. So.
I'm very happy to hear that you're still in the creative world. I don't think you couldn't be.
Well, I could be, but I'd be very depressed.
Yeah.
And that's why I needed to get back, because that's why I was in the music in the first place, because I crave that artistic creative process, and without being in the music anymore, I needed something, and so there's that.
I hope you never stop the creative process. I have enjoyed this thoroughly. I've learned a shit ton. I hope you're willing to come back on soon.
Absolutely.
I have more to talk to you about. You are just a gold mine of information, of ideas, of theories, of concepts, of, I really enjoy getting down to, the depth of things, and not just talking about, we talked about what you've done and what you're doing and what you've accomplished and whatnot, but, it's so important to really talk about everything around that and what you talked about, the feelings and the intentions and being aware and paying attention to who Josh is or who anybody is in those situations.
The non-material,
yeah, and especially in a world of music, obviously all creativity is, all creative platforms, there is that, no doubt. I mean, I just had a comedian on the other day, and we talked about live performance. Like, it doesn't matter what your creative outlet is. There's a relationship among all of those people, from fans to performers and everyone in between and outside the barriers. I mean, you name it. And there's that relationship, and that's what I love to hear about. And I feel like you really brought that to the table, and I guess just thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Any final words?
You can check out Domain Life on Instagram at Domain Life, DOUGHMAINLIFE, and then at Rolling Hills USA.
Rock and roll. I like it. Check them out, everybody.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Peace.